Welcome back, everyone, to round number 4 of the... Okay, yeah, this is completely unedited. I'm sorry, so take number 2 here. Okay, hello everyone, welcome back to Gym Challenge Summer for our Regulation D tournament here over at the Psycho Turtle place here over TTV Pal Gaming. I have Sis Cornell here back at it again for round number 4 of this tournament. Things are boiling down. We're gonna have our top cut spots on the line here as the records are being threatened here for both of these players, as we're gonna see on the screen here 2 new players into round number 4. Richard Salazar, the person we're gonna see on the screen, and on the other side is gonna be Felix de la Riva. And oh my goodness, well, we're gonna have an interesting aspect here. We're gonna have an interesting development here in this series, as we're gonna have a lot of new Pokemon as well as some familiar faces that we've already seen throughout this tournament. And we seem to have a problem with the screen, or maybe something with the rule set. I really don't know. As we create a way to solve the situation, I hope you all stuck around. Oh, it looks like to be a head issue. Looks like hopefully with everything fixed, we should be able to go on to the battle. And as we wait, both these teams, they have pretty much the similar aspect of what they want to do, but the different offensive ways to do so. And we're gonna see right now from Richard, it's gonna be Dragonite, Fluttermane, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Tornadus Incarnate, Heatran, and Chien Pao. Oh my goodness, Chien Pao Gaming. Let's go! And now on the other side, we have Felix's team of Urshifu Rapid Strike, Heatran, Fluttermane, Iron Hands, Ursaluna, and Cresselia. Both these teams have different ways to win the game. Obviously, Felix wants to get that true move with that Cresselia, but on the other side, Richard can just go for his hyper offense move with something like that Tornadus, but also you can deviate into something like that priority spam of Dragonite Chien Pao that's been dominating the ladder right now in Regulation D in ranked mode, if you're not aware. It's almost everywhere, and it's quite crazy to see the Pokemon, the duo that's been introduced in Regulation Z, being that Chien Pao and Dragonite, still stands strong right now, even with these new Pokemon coming into the fray. And as we await to see what's going to be brought out into this set, it looks like it's going to be a really tough decision for Richard, as he's really considering what to bring here. And it looks like it's going to be the Fluttermane Urshifu lead, and then you have to pretty much adapt to what Felix has, because he could just obviously go for the Trick Room for that Ursaluna, or he could just go for his bulk mode with his offensive mode, where he has the Iron Hands for Fake Out support, and then his other Pokemon could just set up something like that's hyper aggressive moves, as well as something like that substitute from Heatran, which you'll see from time to time, but sometimes you'll just get away with all 3 attacks on that thing. So we're gonna see Felix lead with the Iron Hands Fluttermane, and Richard's gonna go ahead and lead the Fluttermane and the Urshifu. That Urshifu Rapid Strike gonna go ahead and emit some pressure to this Fluttermane, but the Fake Out can obviously stop it. And then this Fluttermane, actually, both these Fluttermanes are not booster energy, and as we've heard in this screen and on the team sheet, Richard's Fluttermane is actually holding that Pixie Plate in order to power up the fairy type attacks that it currently has, which is both Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast. And I don't think either of those attacks actually would knock out something like that Iron Hands. And we're going to see an early terrestrialization come out. This looks to be from Felix. If I see this correctly, it is going to be Felix's Fluttermane is going to go ahead and terrestrialize into that water type. So this is an interesting trend that's been going on in ranks, as we're seeing more and more Fluttermanes tear into the water type to avoid being hit by super effective, avoid being hit by the Surging Strikes. As the Urshifu actually opts to go for Protect this for this turn to make sure it doesn't see any damage, not necessarily from the Fluttermane and his Iron Hands, as Felix's Fluttermane is just gonna go for that Dazzling Gleam. It's gonna be choice locked into a choice specs Dazzling Gleam. Here's the Heavy Slam, doubles into the Fluttermane, and that's an easy one-hit knockout onto this Fluttermane. Loses it pretty easily as a Shadow Ball just went into a Fluttermane in neutral. And yeah, we do see the Dragonite and the Heatran in the back. Dragonite can just go ahead and spam Extreme Speed now, but it needs to commit to the Terra Normal in order to do so, which is easily counterable by that Drain Punch that Iron Hands carries. And it's now, and you know, yeah, you just have a lot of different things you have to go going for, and yet we are going to see that Extreme Speed come out into Felix's Iron Fluttermane. Excuse me, I'm a little stuttering right now. A little bit of rut. And that Dragonite does have an open leeway to knock out this Fluttermane, but it'll also easily switch out. Or yeah, no, it's choice mix. Can't even go for protect. And here is a Terrestrialization into the Dragonite here, into that normal type, to make sure that Extreme Speed does massive damage with that choice band and now that same type attack bonus thanks to this normal type. And because of his priority move, it is faster than everything on the field, but that Dragonite is going to take the easiest knockout of his life. They got that Fluttermane, and there goes the Terrestrialization from Felix. Probably a little premature, as it could have been for that Urshifu, but now Urshifu's gonna go ahead and go for that Surging Strikes. The first hit goes a little bit of damage, and there's the second one. It's probably gonna get to half HP. It does, with all 3 critical hits landing onto that Iron Hands, and the Iron Hands just go straight for the Wild Charge. Gonna go ahead and hit to that Urshifu, get another one-hit knockout with a critical hit. So Urshifu goes down, so now it takes a bit more recoil damage, so now it's probably susceptible to something like that that Extreme Speed from this Dragonite. However, Felix is in a pretty favorable position now that the Fluttermane's been cleared, as well as that Urshifu, because now you don't have to worry about something like that Ursaluna coming in from Richard's side, or that Fluttermane threatening to break the multi-scale potentially from the Dragonite. Actually, I'm looking at, oh yeah, actually this Dragonite is not multi-scale, it's actually just inner focus. So as Felix is going to send out that Ursaluna here, Heatran going to come in for Richard as he sent his last 2 Pokemon. And as we see, these 2 Pokemon are pretty bulky from their HP stats, but even though his Iron Hands is pretty prone to a knockout, this Ursaluna is probably the more worrying part. Because if Ursaluna gets going with that Flame Orb, it's probably not going to see the light of day anytime soon. We're going to see the Extreme Speed go into the Ursaluna, not going to do half health, but it does almost half. Here goes the Earth Power into the Iron Hands, going to take this knockout. But this Heatran's very susceptible to this Ursaluna's Earthquake. If it went for it, probably did go for it actually. Yeah, just going to go for that Earthquake here. Dude, 4 times super effective on that Heatran. It is enough for a one-hit knockout. And we did see how little damage that Iron Hands that Ursaluna took from that Extreme Speed. And this might just be it for Richard in game 1, because yeah, we do see an Urshifu in the back. And this is going to be at Rapid Strike form, so you are being hit by super effective on close combat now because of that Terra Normal. But also this Ursaluna is going to threaten big damage with a Facade with the Flame Orb active. And this Ursaluna and Urshifu duo for Felix definitely is going to win him the game, because he got that turn 1 correct, where even if the Urshifu didn't go for the detect turn 1, ooh, the Extreme did a good amount of damage to that Urshifu, but instead of a close combat, it's just going to go for the Surging Strikes. There's a second hit, another critical hit, and a third critical hit comes into the Dragonite, and that is game number 1 to Felix de la Riva, as he wins game number 1 with good reads. And just like that, Felix up 1 game, and even though Richard was trying to read a he was trying to read a Surging Strikes go into the Fluttermane spot, it didn't happen, but Urshifu protecting that turn 1 definitely set Richard back from getting any offensive momentum, because the fact that Fluttermane was double targeted technically with the Dazzling Gleam plus Heavy Slam was definitely not ideal, because that Heavy Slam always should take the knockout onto the Fluttermane. And Fluttermane is not known for his physical bulk, you know, it's one of the more fragile Pokemon on the physical side. And as we're going to go back into the team preview selection here, we have Richard Salazar on the screen here in this perspective, Dragonite, Flutter Mane, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Tornadus Incarnate, Heatran, and Chien Pao. And for Felix or Riva, who needs one more game to advance into the next round with another win, with the Urshifu Rapid Strike, Heatran, Flutter Mane, Iron Hands, Cresselia, and Ursaluna. And we're seeing a potential switch up of the leads here for Richard. And it's quite easy to tell that Richard wants to get that Extreme Speed Dragonite going, but he also needs to be wary of when and when not to protect, because even though the Flutter Mane did go for the Terrestrialization, it could have just also gotten some damage onto the Iron Hands earlier, probably because of the Heavy Slam going into the Flutter Mane instead of a Wild Charge going into that. Like, could have potentially got the could have gotten that yeah, could have gotten that Iron Hands down to 50% HP, and then you bring in the Extreme Speed Dragonite on a Terra Water Flutter Mane, and then you were able to get the double knockout that way. But instead, we're going to see Ursaluna Urshifu for Felix Riva as Flutter Mane Urshifu comes out for Richard. So we got 3 bears on the screen and then a ghostly Pterosaur. And we're going to see an immediate Moonblast go into the Urshifu slot as the target here. What does the Urshifu do here? Because Urshifu can't easily just take a one-hit knockout from that Moonblast, but it can also one-hit knock out the Flutter Mane if it opts to survive. Which leaves this Ursaluna to do what's to do defensively? Does it go for that Terra Water that it has? Does it just switch out into something like the Cresselia? Or does it switch out into Iron Hands? So many options for Felix right now. He has a game to play with, but he also needs to be careful if he does choose to switch out to Ursaluna, because you're not going to be able to activate the Flame Orb. And then you're just going to be stuck here doing nothing here. Urshifu just going to protect, stat out whatever he wanted to do in this turn, and it is going to be a double protect actually from these Pokemon. So unfortunately for Felix, the Urshifu is going to be able to hit through protect, as we do see the Moonblast hit Urshifu into the protect that it had. Surging Strike goes into the Urshifu, actually not going into the Ursaluna there. Interesting take here, and that's another critical hit going into it. A third one going to land. I think the Surging Strikes to the Urshifu was a bit of a riskier play to go for, but I do understand why you go for it, as the Ursaluna now gets burned by the Flame Orb. And with that Flame Orb burn, Ursaluna can get to work with that Guts ability active, and Facade doing more damage than usual. That double protect there was probably a safe play to cover for the Flutter Mane, but you also had to be very careful about what that Urshifu could have done, because if that Urshifu was able to hit that Surging Strikes into a super effective Ursaluna, that would have been a game. That would have been a one-turn knockout for that Urshifu Rapid Strike into that Ursaluna for Felix. Instead, Felix is in a little bit of a tougher position to be in this time, because you're still being threatened by a one-hit knockout with a super effective Moonblast before you Terra. But now that you've gotten your Flame Orb on the Ursaluna, you could probably safely switch it out for another time. No switch out's going to happen. This is going to be a Terrestrialization come out. I think this is Felix doing it, and this is going to be Ursaluna going into a Water type. So now you're resistant to that Surging Strikes now, as you now take it very much for no damage, and that basically makes it so close combat has to be the choice of move. As we do see the Moonblast take the knockout of the Urshifu, not going to be contesting that sadly, because Urshifu is actually slower than the Flutter Mane here, because the Surging Strikes into what was the super effective ground type of that Ursaluna, now not very effective move onto that Ursaluna that is now a Water type. So Ursaluna can't just go for an Earthquake here. It just probably would be enough to knock out the Flutter Mane, but instead just wants to take out the Urshifu with a Facade. Down it goes in one hit. Both Urshifus go down in this one turn. And now we're going to see what both these trainers bring out here, as Ursaluna takes a little bit of burn damage in the process with that burn. And Dragonite is going to be coming in for Richard now, as Flutter Mane comes in for Felix. So Extreme Speed may not be on the table here if you were to lock into that move. I mean, you saw your Terra, but Terra normal in this position wouldn't exactly be the most helpful of decisions to go for here, because you have a Ghost type to deal with in this situation now. Even though you're not threatened by a one-hit knockout with the Urshifu's gone for both sides, You really do not know if you take a hit from this Ursaluna here, as Dragonite does switch out because it doesn't have multi-scale. It is an inner focus ability, so it cannot be flinched, but it will take full damage from that Ursaluna, as we're going to see a terrestrialization from Richard's Flutter Mane here, as this is going to be the Fairy Terra for this Pixie Plate Flutter Mane here, as it's going to do a lot more damage than usual. The terrestrialization comes out here. Here's a Flutter Mane going for the Dazzling Gleam. I don't know if this takes a knockout on the Ursaluna. It'll be pretty close. No, it's not nowhere close actually. There's a Shadow Ball going to go ahead and go into the Flutter Mane. No longer weak to go, so but that Choice Specs boosted Shadow Ball doing a good amount of damage, and Facade doing half to Heatran. Whoa, that is a mighty bear. As Heatran takes a bit of time to gobble up on the leftovers and get some HP back, while Ursaluna takes more damage to that burn. And the Dazzling Gleam going to be locked in here for Richard here. I would have thought a Moonblast was safer to the Flutter Mane, because you should be able to outspeed this Ursaluna without much concern. Yeah, we're going to see him considering the option. Oh, actually going for Protect. I mean, this is definitely, most definitely Earthquake range for both these Pokemon, so probably your safest bet to make sure your Flutter Mane survives another turn. As Flutter Mane does confirm to Protect, so it's not going to take any damage for this turn. Flutter Mane goes into the for the Shadow Ball into the Protect of that Flutter Mane. This Ursaluna probably is just going for another Facade here, as the Heat Wave connects onto both Pokemon. The burn is actually going to take out the Ursaluna at the end of the turn. Earthquake comes out, will knock out Felix's own Flutter Mane, but it will take the Heatran down with it. So, but the bad news now is that Ursaluna is going to go down to his own burn, so that leaves Felix down to his last Pokemon, while Richard still has that Dragonite in the back. So it's not going to be a 2v1 for Richard, as I think this is going to go to a game 3 actually, thanks to that burn that Ursaluna has to go through. While he was able to do a lot of damage, just did a little damage a bit too late, so Protect probably was the safer play there. It's now going to be Flutter Mane and Dragonite versus whatever Felix has in the back. And I don't like to... I really don't want to burst bubbles here, but this is Iron Hands. This is trouble. This is trouble. It is going to be the Iron Hands going to be the last Pokemon for Felix. He cannot go for the Fake Out on the Dragonite. He can go for the Fake Out onto the Flutter Mane, but you have to risk something like that Stomping Tantrum or that Outrage. That Outrage with Choice Band is going to do loads of damage. And we're going to see the Fake Out go straight into the Flutter Mane. Not going to get the knockout, sadly, as Flutter Mane is going to go ahead and flinch. And here's the Outrage from this Dragonite. Down goes, and that's a lot of damage for the first hit. And that is going to be the game over for Felix, as he is going to lose his game number 2 here. Richard, with this Moonblast, goes ahead and forces the game 3. Good way to finish the set right now. We're going to another game 3, and we're gonna see what decisions that that Richard is able to take here into this account, because Double Bear was a pretty good starting lead, but definitely played with a bit of fire in that process. So definitely was the riskiest thing you could have done, but it worked. It worked for the first time, as Urshifu was not able to go for the Surging Strikes into the Urshifu for super effective damage. However, then Felix was kind of left out in the open, as that Flutter Mane was just doing too much damage to that Pixie Plate and that Terrestrialization to Fairy. And now it's just now down to what can Felix do with that to his lead, because Flutter Mane Iron Hands looks pretty good as a lead again from game 1 earlier, but you have to also now contest with this Urshifu, because as you saw in that game 1, you're definitely not going to get anything for granted with that Flutter Mane, with that Urshifu going for Searching Strikes on everything that Felix has on his disposal. So we're going to see the teams once again: Richard with Dragonite, Flutter Mane, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Tornadus Incarnate, Heatran, and Xianpao. As Felix's side is going to have Urshifu Rapid Strike, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Heatran, Flutter Mane, Iron Hands, Ursaluna, and Cresselia. And this is game number 3, our third game 3 out of the 4 rounds of Swiss. Both these players potentially fighting for a top cut slot in this tournament, as we're going to a top 8 cut after round number 5 here, as we have 5 rounds of scheduled Swiss. in the tournament for Regulation D, and a lot of teams right now, as so many of these Pokemon just have a lot of tools in their disposal. You see the Cobra Cloak on the Tornadus, so it won't get hit with the Fake Out, and we're seeing Richard actually wanting to change up his lead here. Going to go potentially locking that Urshifu and the Dragonite here, but no, he's actually just going to go very, very differently. It looks like to go back to his game 1 set of Flutter Mane Urshifu with Dragonite and Heatran. I wonder if Felix does the same here and goes back to his game 1 roots. Here we go, and we're going into game number 3 here between Richard and Felix. The winner probably goes into 3-1 and looks likely to get into a top slot. We're going to see Cresselia Ursaluna for Felix de la Riva, and Richard Salazar goes ahead and leads Flutter Mane Urshifu for game number 3 here. And so far, it looks like very passive pressure for Felix, as he cannot go for the protect on the Ursaluna without any risk of getting hit with the Unseen Fist, breaking through that protect and going into that 13 strike super effective damage. But if Trick Room goes up, Ursaluna, if it goes with that Terra Water, it has free reign to do damage to everything at Richard's disposal, because of the fact that Earthquake now is hitting to his own Levitate, which means Earthquake's going to hit both of Richard's Pokemon without punishment, and that most of Richard's teams is super fast without priority. And oh my god, this is a big read coming out from Richard. If he puts the Terra Water onto the Ursaluna with that Shadow Ball hitting its way, it's actually going to be the Cresselia that's going to go for the Terrestrialization into the Fairy type. So I'm wondering what this Cresselia is going to do here if it went for that Terra Fairy. Is it still going to go for that Trick Room here as Protect comes out into the Ursaluna once again, trying to protect itself from the Flutter Mane, as it goes for the Shadow Ball into the Ursaluna here, trying to bait a Terra here, as 30 strikes does land on the Ursaluna. This might get a one-hit knockout based on that damage. Oh yeah, that is absolutely getting a one-shot. The third hit, the critical hit, and that's a one-hit knockout on the Ursaluna. This is why you don't protect in front of Urshifu, because of that Unseen Fist. And that's a one-hit knockout for Richard. And Cresselia left here on the Terra Fairy into the Psychic. And I see why he goes for the Terra Fairy now to avoid a Shadow Ball from the Flutter Mane, as the Psychic actually does get a special defense drop onto Richard's Urshifu. And here comes Urshifu of his own for Felix here, as the Flutter Mane's wings actually covers it up briefly. And Trick Room still might be a good option here for Felix, but now you're in a very terrible spot as you don't have your Ursaluna to sweep your team anymore. And then there's also the fact that Flutter Mane, that Terrestrialization is still available for Richard. And Felix, I think he needs to get the Surgery Strikes to land onto the Flutter Mane. Dazzling Gleam going to come out with that Pixie Plate. It is not enough for a one-hit knockout. As Urshifu's actually holding on to a Focus Sash, so apart from my words, and there's the Surging Strike, so it's into the Flutter Mane. First hit, doing a good amount of damage, just like the Ursaluna. I think this also seems to get a one-hit knockout with the third hit. Here it comes, and that's another one-hit knockout for Urshifu. There goes the Flutter Mane for Richard. As what does Richard's Urshifu do here? Does it go into the Rocky Helmet? Oh, that Cresselia, it does. So first it's gonna land. It's gonna take a bit of chip damage. Oh, it's not gonna get all 3 hits. It's actually gonna go down to the second one thanks to that Rocky Helmet. So down goes to Urshifu. That's a double knockout for Felix thanks to the Rocky Helmet. And if Felix goes for that Trick Room or that Lunar Blessing, it's gonna be that Lunar Blessing, so it's gonna get a bit of HP back thanks to the recovery here for both itself and its teammate, the Urshifu. Now it's gonna go back up, and now Richard just down to Heatran and Dragonite. While Dragonite can get the Extreme Speed knockout onto the Urshifu, you have to contest this Cresselia because it's Terra Fairy, so you cannot go for Outrage, and you're likely just going for Extreme Speed the rest of the match. But if there's a Flutter Mane in the back for Felix, this Dragonite might just end up being useless. But this Heatran, yeah, Heatran still has Terra Blast available, and we're gonna see here what does the Dragonite do here. He's gonna opt to go for a Stomping Tantrum on the Levitate Pokemon, which in hindsight isn't gonna do anything. But if it has the Flutter Mane in the back, which I think Felix does have in the back, if it does have the Flutter Mane, that's probably your most safest option instead of going for something like that Aerial Ace, which I think would be doing a bit more damage thanks to that stab. As we're gonna see the Heatran go for a Terrestrialization into that Grass type. And this is probably going to be, yeah, this is a Terra Blast going into, oh my god, it's an ally switch. This is ally switch Cresselia. Now we're going to see a bit of interesting movement here. Surging Strikes us into the terrestrialization of Heatran. Gonna do a little bit, not going to do a lot of damage into that Grass Terra. And we're going to see 3 hits go out, and Heatran just takes it comfortably. And there's the 3 hits here as Terra Blast going to come out. I think this was going into the Urshifu swap, but wasn't expecting the ally switch to come out in that situation. Cresselia takes a decent amount of damage from that attack, and stopping Tantrum goes into the Urshifu, and that is a knockout for Richard, as now the game state's even at 2-2. This Dragonite cannot touch the Cresselia. Heatran can though, and there is a Flutter Mane in the back. The Flutter Mane does have the Choice Specs item available to it, so it will be doing a lot of damage to something like that, because that Dragonite. And because this Dragonite's inner focus is not going to enjoy taking that flary type attack from the Flutter Mane, because it does not have multi-scale, so it will be taking a lot more damage than it would have liked. And that's the drawback of running something like that inner focus. While it does protect you from your flinches and that intimidating ability, you will not have the ability to live a Moonblast from that range, as it takes a 1-hit knockout for Felix to get into a 2-1 lead. There's the Terra Blast coming out from this Heatran, goes into the Flutter Mane slot. There's the big beam, and is not even doing half of health. And a Lunar Blessing comes out, gonna go ahead and heal a significant amount of damage taken from this Flutter Mane, as well as heal Cresselia a bit here. And this might just be game over for Richard, as this Moonblast is going to be doing a lot of damage now that this Heatran is no longer double resistant to something like that Moonblast anymore. And we're going to see here, when Moonblast comes out into the Heatran, just go ahead and takes it. And here's a Heat Wave. He needs a big amount of critical hits to get back into this game. Doesn't get any of them. Here's a Sidekick. Is this enough to get the knockout? It is not. It's down to 16 HP, but this Flutter Mane's still faster. And this is going to be a 2-1 victory for Felix de la Riva. And he is going to enjoy the fact that he's going to go get another win to get himself closer to that top cut stage. As Moonblast secures the knockout, Felix de la Riva wins round number 4 here with a 2-1 victory thanks to his Flutter Mane, going for that Choice Specs Moonblast after the terrestrialization for that Heatran was burned. And that's the drawback of running something like that Terra Blast. I mean, something like that terrestrialization into the Heatran, not knowing that he had a Flutter Mane in the back. That was pretty much a pick your poison. Do you want to lose to extreme speed, or do you want to try to lose to my Flutter Mane attack? So it's really just pick your poison, and that's just ended up what happened. And another good close set from these players. You know, a lot of intensity coming into this set, and it's been that way for every game so far in this entire tournament. So we got 1 round left of Swiss. You don't want to miss it, as we're going to have a lot of top cut implications on the line the very next round. So you will not want to miss it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.